Hi guys, we are U of I dietetic students and today we're here to talk to you guys about sports nutrition. Just know that this can apply to you even if you don't do sports. It can help you in everyday life and activities. But my name is Krista Story.
I'm Natalie Getz.
And I'm Sarah Michaels.
So today we'll be covering a few topics related to sports nutrition. I'll be covering hydration.
And I'll be talking about
Fueling. And I will be talking about snacking.
Alright, so first we'll talk about hydration. So why do we care? Proper hydration directly impacts our performance. Our muscles are made up 75% of water and they work to help deliver oxygen all over our body. Being hydrated also regulates our body temperature, especially when we're sweating and respirating. And it has a direct impact on our cognition, our reaction time, and how hard our hearts have to work or our cardiac output. It also can impact our injury risk and our recovery time. So hydration is very important. This photo right here just kind of shows you the effect of dehydration on performance. So the more dehydrated you are, the more severe symptoms that you could experience. So there are two types of dehydration, mild and moderate. Mild is considered 1 to 3% body weight loss after exercise. So if you have mild dehydration, you could experience things like a slight headache, dry mouth, fatigue, slow reaction time. Moderate dehydration is considered 4 to 6% body weight loss after exercise and could include symptoms like a headache, thirst, dry mouth, increased heart rate, muscle cramping, and extreme fatigue. So dehydration and performance. So this is kind of looking at a 2% weight loss, which would be 3 pounds in a 150-pound athlete. And just some effects like we kind of talked about. You can see a decrease in cognitive function. So this could be about time lost making a decision, decrease in reaction time, so the difference in making the play, the shot, the catch, the throw, etc., which can impact your performance greatly. Decrease your cardiac output, so your heart is working harder to pump blood since it's more thick because it doesn't have as much fluid in it. And then your risk for injury is also increased, especially in soft tissue, because your muscles don't have that water to clear those waste products out. You can also see an increased recovery period, again, because your muscles don't have that water to get rid of those waste products, so it takes your body a lot longer to recover after practice or after a game. So here is just a picture of the urine color chart. So if you're hydrated, your urine should be either clear to like a pale yellow. If you're dehydrated, it'll be a dark yellow to an amber brown color, and if you're extremely dehydrated, it'll be a brown color, and that's when you want to consult a doctor. So electrolytes, this is also another important part of hydration. Its function is to help maintain water balance. Electrolytes are also very important when we contract and relax our muscles, and they assist with transmitting nerve impulses. In sweat, our main electrolytes are lost. These include chloride, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. And how much you lose is going to vary person to person based on how much you sweat and even genetics. All right, so what are the recommendations for fluid and electrolytes? So again, this is going to vary person to person based on your sex, how much you exercise, and how much you sweat even. So just keep that in mind. But in general, males will need 3.3 liters per day and females will need 2.2 liters per day. So even if you're not a sports athlete, this is still important to know how to stay hydrated so you can focus well in school. But before exercise, we want to shoot for 2 to 4 milliliters of water per pound, 2 to 4 hours before you exercise. And then during exercise, we want to shoot to 4 to 6 ounces every 15 to 20 minutes and also get some electrolytes in. It's recommended about 100 milligrams of electrolytes per hour of exercise just to replace the ones that you've lost through sweat. And then post-exercise, we want to shoot for 16 to 24 ounces per 1 pound weight loss and also replace additional electrolytes lost. this can be hard to determine how much fluid to drink afterwards, so just know that your body will need additional fluids and electrolytes, and then just pay attention to your urine color. We're looking for a clear or pale yellow urine, and then that will tell you if you're hydrated or not. So how do we meet fluid intake? We can meet fluid intake through water, sports drinks, and even food. Water is very important. It's important to sip it throughout the day because chugging it, our bodies aren't going to absorb it as well. It's kind of like a sponge. And so take a water bottle with you wherever you are, have it in class, maybe get one with a straw if that helps you drink more. Sports drinks are awesome to have to help you replace those electrolytes that you lose during sweat during exercise. So keeping those in your bag or practice bag could be a great way to get those in. And then also foods have water in them, so foods like watermelon, veggies, cucumbers, bell peppers, things like that can actually impact your fluid status and get some more water into you. So after practice, you could try packing some watermelon and have that afterwards to help you replenish your fluids. But that's all that I have for you guys, so I'm going to pass it off to Sarah and she'll talk to you more about food. Okay guys, so I'm going to talk to you guys about fueling. So when we think about fueling our bodies to help us perform our best, no matter what we're doing, we want to focus on including both macro and micronutrients. So macronutrients are carbohydrates, fat, and protein. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred source of fuel for both exercise and for your brain function and different things like that. So you want to try to get between 45 and 65% of your daily energy intake from carbohydrates. And then our next category that we're going to talk about are fats. And so fats are used as like an energy reserve in the body. They help to protect our vital organs and help transport fat-soluble vitamins throughout the body. So in our daily energy intake, we want to try to get between 20 and 35% from fat. And then our next one is protein. So protein you need for muscle and tissue recovery, and they also help to regulate our metabolism. And so we want to try to get between 10 and 35% of our daily energy intake from proteins. And then micronutrients are also really important for our bodies because they have vitamins and minerals. So these help our bodies, but we don't need them in as big as quantities as macronutrients. So they both serve different purposes, macronutrients and micronutrients, but we need them all on a daily basis. And then with carbohydrates, they're broken down into two different categories. There's simple and then there's complex carbohydrates. So it's important to understand what the difference is between these so that way you know how to fuel your body for whatever exercise you may be doing. So simple carbohydrates are readily available and they break down really easily. And so you want to try to consume simple carbohydrates before a game or a practice to make sure that you have enough immediate energy for you to be able to perform. But one thing to keep in mind is that you don't want to try consuming simple carbohydrates right before a game if you've never tried doing that before. So you're going to want to experiment and see how your body reacts to those simple carbohydrates and see if that's a good option for you or not, because you could have some GI distress or abdominal discomfort if your body doesn't like those simple carbohydrates right before exercise. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is what kind of simple carbohydrates are. So those can include breads or potatoes, rice, pasta, fruits, or starchy vegetables like carrots, corn, and peas. And then next is complex carbohydrates, and so those are better for in between game meals or different bouts of exercise when your body doesn't need that immediate fuel source. And so complex carbohydrates provide us with fiber, and they're slower to break down during digestion, which helps keep us feeling fuller for longer. And it also stores as glycogen in our muscles and in our muscles and in our liver, which can be used for fuel later when we might need it. So complex carbohydrates are good to eat in the morning because during the night our body depletes its glycogen stores, and so they need to be replenished. So a couple different examples of complex carbohydrates are whole grains and green leafy vegetables. And next we're going to talk about fat and how fat is an important part of our diet because it helps provide us with essential fatty acids that our bodies can't make. And it also helps us to absorb some of our fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. So that's really, really important for us. So fat is also a sustainable and slowly digesting source of energy. So it makes us feel satisfied for longer and keep us feeling full. And so when we choose a fat, we want to try to think about choosing unsaturated fats to provide more fatty acids, help us reduce our inflammation, lower our cholesterol, and reduce risk of disease and stuff. So unsaturated fats are broken down into monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. So monounsaturated fats can be different oils like olive or peanut oils, avocados, or different nuts like almonds or hazelnuts, and different seeds. And then polyunsaturated fats can be broken down into flaxseed oil or sunflower oil, fish, walnuts, different flax seeds, and things like that. And so when we can, we want to try to focus on eating more unsaturated fats versus saturated fats. So some ways to include more unsaturated fats could be to cook with olive oil or add peanut butter to your toast or include part of an avocado with your eggs or have trail mix as a snack. So here's a couple of different examples of some things that I just talked about, making avocado toast with your eggs or olive oils or trail mixes or different ways like that. So it's best to try to include those whenever you can. And then next we're going to talk about protein and how protein helps our bodies to regulate our metabolism as well as provide structure for our muscles and other tissues. So we need moderate amounts of protein, especially when we're exercising. So we want to try to get 20 to 30 grams of high quality protein every 3 hours when we're awake. So we want to think about eating between 25 to 40 grams of protein within an hour of bed as well to help stimulate muscle repair and muscle recovery that might have happened during the day. So a few of the ways to get that recommended 20 to 30 grams of protein would be to have a snack of trail mix, jerky, a Greek yogurt parfait, vegetables with hummus, or an apple with peanut butter. And then a general rule when thinking about animal proteins is that typically the less legs that animals have, the leaner the protein will be. So for example, cows and pigs have 4 legs, chickens and turkeys have 2 legs, and fish have 0. So the only exception to this is deer or elk meat because they are considered lean sources. So we want to try to focus on getting lean sources of protein from fish, chicken, turkey, things like that. And then it's always good to include variety and moderation in all aspects, but especially with protein, so that way we can achieve optimal nutrition. So you can always include low-fat dairy products, nuts, seeds, legumes, anything like that. And then every nutrient in our body for micronutrients is really important, so we want to try to focus on eating the rainbow because each color of fruits or vegetables has different nutrients available to us. So vitamin A is really important for our eye and vision health. And so some different food sources of vitamin A are animal products or vegetables like carrots or sweet potatoes that have carotene in them. And then B vitamins we need to help release the energy from the food that we have eaten, and also they help with our body tissues and repairing and building those. Some different food sources of B vitamins are whole grains, dried beans, animal proteins, peanuts, and things like that. And then next we're going to talk about vitamin C. And so vitamin C is an antioxidant which helps our immune system so we can fight off illnesses and things like that. Different food sources of vitamin C are citrus fruits, kiwis, berries, cabbages, peppers. And then vitamin D is a bone builder, so it helps keep our bones and teeth strong and helps us absorb more calcium. So vitamin D sources are dairy products, mushrooms, seafood, egg yolks, anything like that. And we can also get vitamin D from the sun as well. So vitamin E helps to prevent damage to our cell membranes and helps us produce blood and things like that. So food sources are vegetable oils or nuts or seeds or anything like that. And then vitamin K helps our blood clot when we have an injury. So we want to make sure to have lots of green leafy vegetables to increase our vitamin K intake.
And then with minerals, we want to think about calcium to help with our bone health. Electrolytes are really important, as Krista was talking about, for our hydration status and keeping that balance. So we want to make sure we get sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, magnesium, and phosphate. And phosphorus helps with our muscle and muscle repair. Getting enough iron in our body will help us to not become anemic. And then zinc helps with immunity and wound healing. And then we also want to get some of our trace minerals as well. And we can get those through eating the rainbow and getting different food sources with different variety and moderation of foods. And so with fueling for exercise, we want to make sure to have enough carbohydrates. So pre-exercise, you want to fuel your body with 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates. And so that can look like a half of a bagel, a banana, half a cup of oats, or a small apple. But depending on the length and intensity of your exercise, you may want to have more carbohydrates partway through to make sure that your body has enough fuel to help you perform your best. So if your exercise lasts less than 45 minutes, you typically don't need any additional carbohydrates. But if you're going to exercise for 45 to 75 minutes, you may need to have a sports drink or something to help replenish those electrolytes that you may have lost through sweat or respiration or anything like that. And then if you're planning to exercise for a longer period of time, say 90 to 150 minutes, it's recommended that you have an additional 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. And so fueling post-exercise is also equally important because it helps repair that tissue damage that may have occurred during an exercise or workout or anything like that. So protein provides building blocks of amino acids that help make our muscles stronger for our next workout or our next exercise. So the best way to structure your meals are to have 20 to 30 grams of protein with 40 to 80 grams of carbohydrates about 30 to 45 minutes after completing your workout to help replenish that. And so this meal or snack could look like a sandwich with deli meats and vegetables, oatmeal with fruit and nut butter, scrambled eggs with avocado toast, or a protein shake. And so when we're thinking about protein shakes and protein powders, it's good to think that there's like a time and place for both of these options that can be helpful to your muscle recovery. But it's always best to try to get your protein and other macronutrients through your food when you can, because it'll provide you with a more complete nutrients and dietary fiber, as well as vitamins and minerals from those food sources. So it's good to aim to eat a high protein diet, high protein foods, over consuming a protein shake or a smoothie when you can.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about snacking. So snacks can be viewed as mini meals. Their purpose is to serve as a nutritional need. There's a difference between snacks and treats, and oftentimes they are commonly confused. So a treat is something that satisfies a craving, and they're typically lower in nutritional value. They're usually those simple carbohydrate foods like cookies or candy. So as an athlete and even as a student, we want to make sure that our snacks are well-rounded and have a good source of protein. So as you can see in the pictures, something like trail mix or carrots and hummus would be a really good snack. Both have a time and a place, but we want to make sure we're prioritizing our snacks over our treats. Snacks help us maintain our energy stores, and so there are kind of 3 different areas of snacking that we're going to look at throughout this presentation. And the first is with traveling. So if you are an athlete and you're traveling a lot and you're in a bus, it's important that we make healthy choices on the road. So if you are stopping at just a gas station or a grocery store, you can kind of look for items like string cheese, pretzels and hummus, or granola bars for fuel before or even after. If you are taking a plane to go somewhere for an event, you have to keep in mind that you lose about 8 ounces of fluid per hour while you're in the air just because of the altitude change. So you'll want to make sure that you drink enough water while you're on the plane so that when you land, you're not dehydrated before you start your event. Throughout the day, we usually like to try and snack on protein over other sources of macronutrients. And this is because it kind of keeps us fuller longer and it helps to build our muscles. So our goal is about every 3 hours to consume 20 to 30 grams of protein. So sources could be like Greek yogurt, could be jerky, or some hard-boiled eggs. If you're wanting a snack before bed, 25 to 40 grams of protein is another good kind of ratio to shoot for, and this is because if we eat protein before bed, research shows us that it can help to stimulate that muscle growth and repair. So this is a great tip if you are an athlete and you train in the evening and then go home, it's a good idea to get some protein before you go to bed. And then of course we want to sip on water throughout the day to stay hydrated and keep our electrolytes balanced. And then finally, when we are looking at pre and post-workout nutrition, we want to make sure we're hydrated, as we talked about before, but we want to make sure we get our carbohydrates and protein, and there is kind of a certain order that we like to do this. So before we work out, we like to have those simple carbohydrates that we talked about earlier. So this could be like pretzels, white rice, white pasta, a sandwich, and this is just because it hits our energy stores faster when it's in these simple forms of carbohydrates. Post-workout, we really want to emphasize our protein intake to start repairing our muscles. So this could be something like chocolate milk, tuna, hard-boiled eggs, or just maybe you're going to have dinner afterwards with some chicken or some fish. But both of these are really important. If you start out your exercise without enough energy, you have an increased risk of injury, and you're not going to be as fueled to perform as well. And if you're not getting your protein after your workout, you really risk your muscles wearing down, and you're not going to build them as adequately as you would like. So here are some more examples of some snack options. As you can see, our pre-game snack options are all those simple carbohydrates that will hit our bloodstream a lot faster. So something like applesauce or fruit purees. We can make smoothies, canned fruit, pretzels. You can also use some sports drinks or gels. Post-practice, as you can see, these are pretty much all protein sources. So beef jerky and hard-boiled eggs are really easy ones to prep before, as well as string cheese, Greek yogurt, dry roasted edamame if you're looking for something plant-based. You can buy tuna pouches at the store, maybe get those single-serving peanut butter packets, or use protein powder. And this NSF certified is just a certification that says that the protein powder is third-party tested, meaning that it's tested for other trace elements that could contaminate it. So when it comes to restaurant options while traveling, there are always a lot of different options depending on the area that you're in. So talk with your team and your coach before. But some common ones are maybe like you're going to go to a Mexican place like Qdoba, even Taco Bell or Cafe Rio, and at these restaurants you can always look for something like just a rice and bean bowl and add some vegetables to it, or maybe some tacos. Again, it'll just depend on if you're having this before a game, you might want something lighter, versus post game you might want something more with some more protein. Sandwich places like Jimmy John's or Subway are good options. If it's before your game, I would recommend white bread, just because it is a simple carbohydrate, but if it's after your game, you could do whole grain because it's a complex carbohydrate, and make sure you put plenty of lean meat on it for protein. It's best to remember as an athlete that we're not necessarily looking to eat low carbohydrate, so if you are going to a sandwich place, I don't recommend necessarily doing lettuce wraps because you want the bread for the energy. You can add salads at different restaurants, but just make sure that you are getting adequate sources of carbohydrates through sources like rice or pasta or breads, and then again choosing those lean meats to stay fueled. So next example of a simple menu for an athlete. As you can see, they're getting their servings of fruits and vegetables, half their grains are whole, and they're having some dairy and protein every few hours. So they're starting before their workout with just a little bit of energy from some fruit or a granola bar. Afterwards, they're fueling with plenty of protein as well as some carbohydrate with the omelet and Greek yogurt, and then having some toast. They're getting protein through string cheese and jerky for a snack. Their lunch has adequate protein in it from their turkey wrap, and then they're getting those carbohydrates from the vegetables and chips. And then you can see the fig bar or fruit before practice is another quick acting source of carbohydrates, and their dinner has that grilled chicken, which is a lean source of protein, and they are getting carbohydrates afterwards. And then before bed, they're having a protein heavy snack with the peanut butter sandwich and the chocolate milk. So to summarize, we talked today about hydration, we talked about fueling with those macro and micronutrients, and then snacking with mini meals. So hopefully this is applicable to you whether you're an athlete or you're trying to just fuel for school.
So we love all questions, guys, so we've provided all of our emails down at the bottom. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email and we'll try to get back to you as we can.
Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something new today.
Hopefully this helps, guys. Thank you.